Most people don't feel broke. They feel stuck, like they're sprinting on a treadmill that never slows down. You do everything right on paper. You work full days, sometimes longer. You avoid reckless spending. You tell yourself you're being responsible. Yet every month ends the same way. The balance drops back to zero. The anxiety creeps back in, and the cycle restarts. It's not dramatic failure. It's slow suffocation. Money is always present in your thoughts, even when you're not spending it. You think about it in traffic, in meetings, in bed at night, because it quietly controls how relaxed you're allowed to be. Pause for a moment and comment one word that describes what's keeping you stuck right now. What makes this worse is the confusion. You don't feel irresponsible. You don't feel lazy. You feel like someone who is trying hard and getting nowhere. And that gap between effort and outcome is where frustration turns into self-doubt. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people never hear clearly. The problem is not that you're not doing enough. The problem is that you are doing exactly what the system expects from someone it plans to keep in place. Most people don't stay broke because they're lazy. They stay broke because they're obedient to rules that were never designed to free them. The rules you followed were built for stability, not escape. They reward showing up, not positioning yourself. They reward patience, not leverage. Think about a guy like Ryan, dependable, praised at work, always saying yes. His life looks responsible, but his future depends on decisions he doesn't control. Or someone like Megan, careful with money, no wild habits, yet every dollar is already spoken for before it lands. Nothing left to build, only enough to survive politely. That is what being held looks like. You are not broken. You are playing a game where effort keeps you busy, but understanding is what creates exits. Once you see that, the pressure you've been carrying stops feeling random and starts revealing where the real problem actually is. Before we go any further, you need a different way of looking at money, because without it, everything that follows will sound unfair or unrealistic. This perspective comes from Machiavelli, not as a teacher of morality, but as someone who studied how power behaves when no one is pretending. He didn't ask how the world should work. He watched how it actually works, and what he saw applies directly to money. The world does not react to effort, sincerity, or intention. Those things feel important to you, but they are private. The system cannot see them. What it responds to are visible forces: position, signals, leverage, and structure. You can work with integrity and still be ignored if your position is weak. You can struggle endlessly if the signals you send communicate dependence. Money flows toward those who control access, timing, and options, not those who simply deserve more. This is why being a good worker often leads to stability, but rarely to freedom. The system isn't cruel, it's indifferent. It rewards those who understand how it functions and quietly punishes those who expect fairness. The system doesn't care how hard you try. It responds to how you position yourself. And with that lens in place, the next 10 Machiavellian rules will make sense, because they explain why so many people stay broke. Not from lack of intelligence, but from never being taught how this game is really played. With that lens in place, the struggle you've been feeling finally has a shape. It isn't bad luck or a lack of effort. It's the result of playing inside rules that quietly limit how far you're allowed to go. The next 10 Machiavellian rules expose where those limits come from and how they're enforced. They won't flatter you, but they will explain why money has been responding to you the same way for years, and how that response can change once the rules are no longer invisible. Law 1. Money feels like a leak, not a resource, because it enters your life already spoken for. Before it lands, it has a job, rent, bills, food, insurance, recovery spending to dull the pressure. Then it's gone. That routine looks responsible, but responsibility without direction becomes confinement. When money is used only to survive, it cannot help you leave. You can be careful, disciplined, and exhausted at the same time. Survival thinking narrows your vision to what must be paid now, not what could be built later. It trains you to protect today while quietly sacrificing tomorrow. Look at Daniel, 38. Solid salary, no wild habits. Every paycheck is pre-divided, every month perfectly managed, yet nothing compounds. Or Jenna, organized and cautious, saving inconsistently because saving without a purpose feels like punishment. In both cases, money acts like oxygen. Necessary, invisible, never transformative. Oxygen keeps you alive. It does not move you forward. Tools do. A tool is money assigned a mission beyond relief. Something designed to create options, buy time, or multiply itself after the work is done. That shift feels risky because it interrupts comfort. It forces patience, restraint, and uncertainty. The exact things survival habits teach you to avoid. But control starts here. Money spent keeps you alive. Money positioned changes your future. Until money stops arriving with obligations attached and starts being placed intentionally, growth will always feel disappointing. Raises will vanish. Bonuses will evaporate. Progress will look like motion without distance. This rule matters because it sets the ceiling for everything else. Without it, leverage has nowhere to land. The painful truth is that survival feels safe because it is familiar. It rewards obedience and punishes imagination. Once you see that, frustration becomes information. You are not irresponsible. You are not incapable. You are simply using money for the smallest task possible and expecting it to deliver the largest result. That contradiction keeps people busy for decades. They work harder, earn more, and feel poorer because income expands responsibilities faster than freedom when money is never allowed to become a tool. Until that changes, the treadmill speeds up, stress grows louder, and the promise of security becomes the very mechanism that keeps you obedient and financially exhausted without ever offering real escape. Law thought. 2. After realizing that money used only for survival can never move you forward, the next trap becomes obvious: the way you trade your time. When income depends on hours, effort eventually collides with a ceiling you cannot push through. You can stay late, stack overtime, answer messages on weekends, and still feel the same pressure because time does not expand when your need does. Working more feels responsible, even noble, but it quietly locks your future to your calendar. Look at Chris, early 40s, dependable, always saying yes to extra shifts. His paycheck grows, but his life shrinks. Or Natalie, a freelance designer fully booked months ahead, constantly busy, constantly worried. Because if she stops working, everything stops with her. This is the hidden cost of thinking in hours. It turns productivity into a treadmill. Motion increases. Distance does not. Time has a hard limit. Systems do not. Systems store effort so it can be reused without you being present every time. They allow work done once to keep producing later. That difference explains why two people with similar skills end up in completely different positions. One sells minutes. The other builds something that survives their absence. A system does not have to be complicated. It can be a repeatable process, a product, a digital asset. A method others can use without you explaining it again. What matters is that it continues when you step away. This idea is uncomfortable because systems are slow at the beginning. They don't reward you immediately. Survival habits push you back toward hours because hours pay fast and feel safe. But speed is deceptive. The moment you stop showing up, the income collapses. That dependency creates constant tension you mistake for motivation. Time sleeps. Systems don't. Control starts when output is no longer chained to presence. You still work, but your work leaves something behind. Each cycle adds capacity instead of draining it. This rule connects directly to the first one. Money becomes a tool only when the way you earn it allows storage, reuse, and scale. Without systems, higher income only means heavier schedules. With systems, modest effort compounds into leverage. Until you stop measuring life in hours and start building things that persist, your ceiling stays fixed, your calendar stays crowded, and freedom keeps getting postponed by one more shift, one more client, one more promise that working harder will finally be enough. Law R3. After understanding that selling time creates a ceiling, the next trap is more subtle, the habit of waiting. Many people are not passive, they are obedient. They wait for raises, for titles, for someone to notice their effort and decide they deserve more. Waiting feels mature and professional, but it quietly transfers control. If you've been waiting for a raise, approval, or the right moment, pause here and comment, "I waited too long." The person who approves your income controls your emotional temperature. Your calm, your confidence, even your patience are tied to their decisions. Think about Ethan, mid-30s, consistently high performance, always told he's valued. Every year he waits for the meeting where his future gets decided for him. Or Claire, capable and ambitious, holding back her ideas because the timing doesn't feel right yet. Months pass. Nothing changes. Permission is the most expensive habit. When income depends on approval, fear becomes constant. You hesitate before pushing back. You stay agreeable longer than you should. You over-deliver to protect stability. That is not security. It is dependence, disguised as responsibility. Control returns the moment permission is no longer required. This does not mean quitting impulsively or burning bridges. It means shrinking the number of people who can freeze your progress with a single decision. Independent skills, parallel income, assets, or even a small self-directed stream weaken the grip of approval. The amount does not matter at first. The signal does. The moment part of your income is self-controlled, your posture changes. You speak differently. You wait less. You negotiate with clarity instead of fear. This rule connects directly to the previous one. Systems only matter if you are willing to act before conditions feel perfect. Waiting keeps systems imaginary and hours dominant. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates leverage. Leverage creates options. The system does not reward patience. It rewards movement. Once you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself, the pressure eases, not because life suddenly becomes fair, but because control shifts back into your hands. That shift is quiet, but powerful. Money responds to autonomy, not hope. And the moment autonomy appears, momentum replaces patience. Law Satha 4. After reclaiming control from permission and systems, the real battle shifts inward, because money rarely escapes through logic. It leaks through desire. Stress builds, pressure accumulates, and spending becomes the fastest form of relief. You tell yourself it's harmless. A better dinner, a nicer place, an upgrade you've earned. One choice doesn't hurt, but patterns do. Lifestyle inflation doesn't arrive as chaos, it arrives as comfort that slowly raises the cost of your life. Look at Jason, late 30s, income climbing every few years. Each raise brought excitement, then a new baseline. Better car, more convenience, higher monthly obligations. Nothing irresponsible, yet no margin. Or Amanda, ambitious and burned out, using purchases as recovery. She isn't impulsive. She's strategic in the wrong direction, trading future leverage for present calm. This is where many people lose control without noticing. Pleasure taken immediately feels like relief, but it quietly collapses momentum. Every dollar used to soothe emotion is a dollar that can't create distance from stress later. Over time, comfort becomes a leash, not because pleasure is bad, but because timing is everything. Comfort feels good. Control feels better. Control is the ability to sit with discomfort without trying to erase it. It's choosing not to upgrade simply because you can, not out of punishment, but out of strategy. This rule ties directly to the last ones. Systems require patience. Independence requires restraint. If desire drives decisions, leverage never survives long enough to compound. Lifestyle inflation creates the illusion of progress while keeping pressure constant. Income rises, obligations rise faster, and freedom stays out of reach. Control begins when spending stops being emotional and becomes deliberate. That shift creates margin. Margin reduces fear. Fear reduction changes behavior. You negotiate better. You wait less. You stop chasing relief and start building distance. This is why people with real power often look restrained, not indulgent. They are not denying themselves. They are protecting options. Until desire is managed, money will always dictate your moves. Once it is, money quiets down. It stops demanding attention and starts obeying intention. At that point, spending no longer defines your lifestyle. Structure does. And structure is what turns income into leverage instead of pressure. Law of 5. Once desire is under control and spending stops leaking your future, the next illusion collapses. The belief that more effort will eventually break the ceiling. It feels logical. If progress is slow, push harder. If pressure rises, grind more. But effort has a fatal flaw. It expires. The moment you stop applying it, results vanish. This is why so many driven people feel permanently tired, yet strangely stagnant. Look at Marcus, early 40s. Dependable, known as the hardest worker in the room. He carries teams, solves problems, absorbs pressure, and gets praised for it. His reward is more responsibility and not more freedom. Or Danielle, a consultant juggling 5 clients at once, fully booked, constantly busy. Her income looks impressive until you realize it's chained to her calendar. Miss a week and everything slips. Hard work produces output, not leverage. It keeps things running, not growing. Leverage is what happens when effort stops being consumed and starts being stored. A process that works without supervision. A skill packaged so it scales beyond one person. A system that keeps producing after the initial push is done. Effort ends. Leverage compounds. That difference explains why 2 people with the same discipline end up in radically different places. One burns energy to stay afloat. The other converts energy into something that continues without them. This shift feels uncomfortable because leverage is slow in the beginning. It pays less upfront and demands patience. Survival thinking pushes you back to effort because effort pays today and today feels urgent. But urgency is the trap. The future is where leverage wins. This rule connects directly to the ones before it. Control over desire creates margin. Margin creates time. Time allows construction instead of constant reaction. Without leverage, discipline becomes a treadmill that never stops. With leverage, discipline becomes an investment that matures quietly. The shock is realizing that exhaustion is not evidence of progress. It is often proof that nothing is multiplying. When you stop glorifying effort and start engineering leverage, the pressure shifts. Work becomes selective. Energy stops leaking. You still work hard, but your work leaves something behind that keeps working when you don't. That is the only way momentum survives rest, setbacks, and uncertainty. Until leverage enters the picture, effort will always demand more while delivering less, convincing you to try harder instead of build smarter. Law 6. Once leverage exists, a quieter force determines whether it actually attracts anything. Trust. Many people are skilled enough to succeed, but opportunity never sticks because their presence feels uncertain. Talent opens a door once. Reliability keeps it open. Look at Kevin, a sharp strategist who delivers great ideas, but misses timelines and explains too much. People praise his thinking, then stop inviting him in. Or Melissa, competent and prepared, yet reactive, late to follow up, constantly adjusting plans. She impresses early and fades quickly. Money follows order because order feels safe. Chaos feels risky, no matter how intelligent it sounds. This is why image is not vanity, it is signal. Before numbers are discussed, people read patterns. Do you keep your word? Do your actions match your claims? Does your behavior tell one clean story? Reputation compounds faster than income because it reduces friction. Each kept promise lowers resistance. Each inconsistency adds cost. Over time, doubt is more expensive than lack of skill. This rule ties directly to leverage. Systems only scale when others believe they won't collapse under pressure. Investors, partners, and clients don't back potential, they back predictability. You don't need to be loud or impressive. You need to be consistent. Calm is currency. Order persuades without talking. When your behavior is steady, people extend time, information, and access before you ask. When it's erratic, doors close silently. The adjustment is practical. Promise less. Finish more. Deliver visibly. Let your actions arrive before your explanations. As reliability accumulates, opportunities appear earlier and linger longer. Negotiations shift because trust already exists. Until reputation is treated like money, earned daily and protected carefully, income will stall regardless of effort. Build order and money follows. Neglect it and talent stays underused. Consistency turns skepticism into confidence. And confidence invites capital faster than persuasion ever will, without performance, noise, or chasing approval. Law 7. When reputation brings opportunity and leverage creates momentum, everything can still collapse if income comes from only one direction. A single paycheck looks stable, but it quietly trains your nervous system to stay alert. Every meeting carries extra weight. Every decision feels risky because too much depends on one yes. Think about Andrew, early 40s, well-paid, respected, yet constantly tense. One department shift or leadership change could pull the floor out from under him. Or Olivia, successful on paper, whose confidence evaporates the moment her company announces restructuring. This is the hidden cost of dependence. It doesn't just threaten money, it reshapes behavior. You negotiate softer. You avoid conflict. You tolerate situations you shouldn't because losing one source feels catastrophic. Dependence feels safe until it disappears. One stream creates fragility. Multiple small streams create stability. Not abundance, stability. And stability changes everything. It doesn't matter if the additional streams start small. What matters is direction. A side service, a recurring commission, a modest product, an investment payout. Each one reduces pressure on the others. This rule ties directly to leverage and control. Systems create income. Reputation attracts access. Diversification protects posture. When income flows from more than one place, fear loses leverage over your decisions. A loss becomes manageable instead of devastating. You speak with more clarity. You wait less for permission. You stop optimizing your life around avoiding risk. This is not about chasing everything at once. It is about layering. One reliable foundation supports experimentation. Experiments that work get reinforced. Those that don't get dropped. Over time, redundancy becomes resilience. Resilience becomes confidence. Confidence attracts better terms, better partners, better opportunities. Money avoids desperation because desperation creates instability. Until income dependence is broken, freedom is conditional and revocable. Spread the load and the system stops owning your emotions. That is when stability turns into control. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, as fear loosens and choice returns. Law 8. Once income is diversified and fear loosens its grip, a different pressure takes its place, the need to be seen winning. Society rewards visibility, not stability. So many people start spending to confirm a story rather than to build reality. The car gets nicer, the apartment gets upgraded, experiences become signals instead of choices. None of it feels reckless in isolation. Together, it becomes a silent drain. Look at Michael, late 30s, solid income, respected circle. Every promotion came with a lifestyle adjustment. Better car, higher rent, more obligations. From the outside, it looks like success. Inside, flexibility disappears. Or Hannah, ambitious and capable, scrolling through peers who seem ahead. She upgrades to keep pace, telling herself it's motivation, while debt quietly grows and options shrink. This is how image turns into a trap. Looking rich is expensive. Being rich is quiet. Display burns capital to buy reassurance, and reassurance never compounds. Real wealth avoids attention because attention creates pressure. It builds buffers instead of applause. It values margin over admiration. This rule connects directly to control and leverage. Money used to maintain appearance cannot protect you, cannot multiply, cannot absorb shocks. Worse, it locks you into maintaining a version of yourself that depends on constant spending. Silence feels uncomfortable because it offers no proof. But silence is where strength accumulates. The calm you notice in people with real financial control is not confidence acting. It is relief from not needing validation. When spending becomes intentional, posture changes. You stop buying symbols and start buying time, optionality, and distance from stress. This doesn't mean living deprived. It means delaying display until structure is solid. Wealth that announces itself early often collapses under scrutiny. Wealth that grows quietly compounds without interference. When you stop performing success, decisions slow down. Pressure eases. Fear loses its grip. Money stops leaking into appearance and starts flowing into systems. Looking rich satisfies the room briefly. Being rich satisfies you continuously. Until image is separated from identity, money will chase approval instead of freedom. The moment silence replaces performance, leverage finally has room to grow, and growth no longer needs an audience to keep moving forward. Law 9. After learning to grow quietly and avoid display, the next danger is believing the hardest part is over once money finally arrives. Many people experience their first real surge, a strong year, a payout, a breakthrough, and relax too early. They assume momentum will protect them. It won't. Money without defense is temporary. Think about Carlos, who doubled his income and expanded his life at the same speed. Bigger commitments, looser rules, more trust. Within 2 years, The pressure returned, just at a higher level. Or Megan, who received a significant windfall, made generous moves without structure and watched control slip through small, preventable leaks. Accumulation creates opportunity. Preservation creates durability. Wealth is not accumulation, it's preservation. The moment money appears, risk multiplies. Taxes, lifestyle creep, emotional decisions, and opportunistic people all show up quietly. Protection is not fear. It is discipline expressed as structure. Clear boundaries, intentional accounts, conservative assumptions, and rules that operate when emotion is loud. This rule connects directly to silence and leverage. Quiet money draws less interference. Structured money resists misuse. Without protection, progress becomes fragile. One misstep can erase years. With protection, mistakes become manageable. The shift here is internal. Stop seeing money as proof that you've made it, and start seeing it as energy that must be contained. Preservation slows loss before it accelerates. It creates time, and time creates options. Options defend leverage. Until preservation becomes a priority, success will always feel temporary, like something that could vanish overnight. When protection is built early, anxiety drops. Decisions sharpen. Growth becomes steadier, not riskier. Money that is defended survives longer than money that is chased. Control does not come from how fast you accumulate, but from how well you keep what you've built. Rule 10. After everything you've learned about leverage, control, preservation, and silence, there is one failure that can still undo it all: letting emotion sit in the driver's seat. For most people, money is never just money. It is fear when the balance drops, pride when it rises, comparison when someone else seems ahead, and relief when spending momentarily numbs pressure. These reactions feel natural, but they are destructive. Look at Tyler, who earns well but checks his account compulsively, letting each fluctuation dictate his mood and confidence. Or Emma, who budgets carefully until stress peaks, then spends not because she needs anything, but because she needs escape. This is what happens when emotion becomes instruction instead of information. Money is data. Emotions are noise. This rule ties directly to preservation and control. Structures collapse when feelings override rules. Numbers don't argue. They don't flatter. They don't lie. They simply show patterns. Spending shows priorities. Saving shows restraint. Debt shows impatience. Investment shows foresight. When money is read as information instead of identity, decisions lose drama. Money becomes powerful when it stops being emotional. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means inserting a pause between stimulus and action. Fear signals risk, not retreat. Excitement signals opportunity, not obligation. That pause is where strategy lives. Over time, neutrality reshapes behavior. You stop reacting to headlines, balances, and comparisons. You stop using money to prove worth or soothe insecurity. Decisions slow down, consistency increases, and volatility loses influence over your choices. This final rule connects all the others into one system. Survival thinking dissolves because data replaces panic. Time is allocated intentionally. Permission loses leverage. Desire is regulated. Leverage compounds. Reputation stays intact. Income streams remain resilient. Preservation holds under pressure. None of that survives if emotion runs the system. When money becomes information, control becomes durable. And when control is durable, wealth stops feeling fragile and starts behaving like a quiet extension of discipline, calm, and clarity. No longer something you chase, fear, or explain, but something you manage deliberately. without urgency or self-sabotage shaping every move. What makes these 10 rules uncomfortable is not that they are complex, but that they are simple enough to leave no hiding place. You don't fail because you don't know them. You fail because living by them forces you to confront habits that feel familiar, safe, and socially accepted. It's easier to stay busy than to redesign your position. Easier to chase income than to protect control. Easier to react, spend, explain, and wait than to sit with discomfort and build structure slowly. That is why most people nod along, feel briefly motivated, and then return to the same patterns that keep pressure alive. The rules don't demand intelligence. They demand restraint, consistency, and the willingness to look wrong before you look stable. That is the real cost. This shift is not about becoming extreme or cold. It's about becoming accurate, knowing when effort creates momentum and when it simply drains you. Knowing when patience is strategic and when it is just disguised fear. Knowing when silence protects progress and when emotion quietly dismantles it. Apply even a few of these principles with discipline, and the environment around you will change. Not overnight, not dramatically, but in ways you can feel. Pressure softens. Decisions slow down. Options appear where there used to be urgency. Money stops feeling like something that chases you and starts behaving like something you direct. That's the part most people miss. Money was never the reward. Control was. Control over time. Control over reaction. Control over direction. And control is built quietly, through choices that don't get applause and habits no one congratulates you for. Most people won't commit to that path. Not because it's impossible, but because it removes comforting excuses. If you're ready to stop confusing motion with progress and start building real financial power with clarity instead of illusion, subscribe and keep walking this path deliberately, without noise, without fantasy, and without giving your control away again.